Ashvaleran. Before the rise of dominions, before even the first binding of flame to soul, there was Ashvaleran, raw, vast, and humming with stories waiting to unfold. The chronicler of the Hollow Age. Ashvaleran, Annals of Shadow and Flame. Forward by a scholar of the Fourth Age. Reader, approach these chronicles with care. What follows are fragments shored against the ruins of memory, compiled from sources disparate and often contradictory, whispers from the Weald, verses etched on emberglass found near the Sovereignty, catechisms of the Soul Forger's acolytes, and the heavily redacted, yet invaluable, scrolls attributed to the chroniclers of the Hollow Age. For Ashvaleran is a world whose deepest truths lie buried beneath layers of forgetting, where the very forces of existence seem locked in a dialogue as ancient as the stars, a dialogue whose denouement now appears perilously close. Part 1 of the Primal Dream and the Emergence. Ere the first mountains were thrust upward by the groaning earth, before the count of ages had meaning, Ashvaleran existed not as a structured cosmos, but as a potentiality, a boundless is and is not within what later savants termed the Primal Dream. It is told in the most archaic lore fragments that a consciousness, vast beyond naming, slumbered, and its very dreaming was the substrate of reality, a turbulent ocean of unformed magic, where light and dark, substance and void, were but shifting tides. No laws governed this expanse, save the inherent potential for form and consciousness to arise. From this roiling infinitude, through processes no living mind can fully grasp, perhaps akin to crystallization from a supersaturated solution, or the slow coalescing of nebulae under their own gravity, two fundamental principles achieved a distinct, albeit interwoven, sentience. They were not deities to be worshipped, but fundamental vectors of the emergent reality, the warp and weft upon which all subsequent history would be woven. First was the shadow, rendered in elder tongues as Merkalethem. This was not merely the absence of light, but the principle of stillness, latency, the echo of all that has passed, the infinite capacity of memory. It became the repository of time itself, the silent guardian of forgotten truths, the cool, deep soil whence potential might spring, or where secrets might lie forever interred. Its influence permeated the ancient rock, the deep waters, the heartwood of eldest trees, and the silent spaces between conscious thoughts. To perceive shadow was to sense the weight of history, the pull of intuition, the chill whisper of buried knowledge. Second was the flame, Ignisereth, or Anakalin in the high speech of the Dominion. This was not common fire, but the principle of becoming, the impulse towards action, will manifest, the engine of transformation and creation. It was the fire in the heart of stars and the forge of a dwarf soul, the passion driving life, the courage to defy entropy, the light that reveals, and the heat that consumes. Its domain was the moment of decision, the forge, the hearth, the beating heart, the unwavering gaze of conviction. To perceive flame was to feel the surge of will, the warmth of life, the call to action, the potential for both glorious creation and utter annihilation. These two forces, shadow and flame, were not inherently opposed in the crude manner of simple contraries, rather, they were the essential polarity required for a dynamic reality. Existence arose in the interplay between them, between memory and action, potential and realization, stillness and change. Early entities, the first conscious sparks in the dream, perhaps elemental beings or the nascent Intelligences of the primordial forests learned to sense these currents, aligning themselves through instinct or nascent understanding. Thus were the first pacts formed, less contracts than resonances, shaping the flow of magic and the destiny of the nascent world. Part 2: The Age of Binding, Dominion and Divergence. Through uncounted millennia, civilizations rose like islands in the vast ocean of time. Some, like the deep kindred who would become the dwarfs, turned inwards, seeking permanence and order in the enduring rock, mastering crafts that resonated with the deep earth memory of shadow. Others, ephemeral and quick, danced with the changing winds, their lives brief sparks reflecting the immediacy of flame. And some sought to harness the principles themselves. Chief among these were the flame binders. Their origins are shrouded, perhaps stemming from a lineage uniquely attuned to the flame, or inheritors of knowledge from a previous cosmic cycle hinted at in the most obscure strata of lore. Over generations, through rigorous ascetic discipline, decipherment of perilous vellum texts, and rituals that bordered on self-immolation, they developed the art of binding. They learned to directly perceive and draw upon the prime flame, ignis veltha, a concept debated endlessly in the Hollow Age. Was it the concentrated soul fire of Ashvaleran? A physical locus of creation? A sentient wellspring of pure will? Whatever its nature, the flame binders learned to tether minute, fiercely potent fragments of this prime flame to their own fear, their spirit cause. This binding granted them abilities that reshaped reality. They could perceive the flow of Anna, Silverlareth, the life force, mending or severing it. They could ignite truth, forcing clarity and conviction upon others, a tool potent for unity, terrifying for dissent. They could accelerate creation or decay, shaping stone and metal with thought and heat. Most perilously, they possessed the capacity to consume the past, to burn away the memories held within shadow, altering history not through lies, but through definitive erasure. Their mastery culminated in the establishment of the Emberfall Dominion, Velthanithar. It sprawled across vast territories, centered on the legendary citadel of Ash, Kaldranitha, a city described in fragmented epics as built of perpetually warm obsidian and shaped, living fire, illuminated by the bound souls of its greatest architects. The Dominion elite were philosopher kings, initially driven by a perceived mandate to bring order and illumination. They codified laws, fostered prodigious arts, and erected monuments designed to channel and amplify the prime flame's influence. Their society was hierarchical, brilliant, and increasingly rigid, viewing shadow primarily as ignorance or chaos to be overcome by the clarity of flame. While the Dominion expanded, other cultures navigated its periphery. Deep beneath the broken ridge mountains, later called the Sundered Crags, the Dwarven folk perfected their mastery of stone and metal, their works imbued with a deep patience and resilience born of shadow's endurance. Their great subterranean halls and celestial forges, powered, it is whispered, by gravitational or temporal alignments beyond the flamebinder's ken, represented a different kind of permanence. They looked upon the Dominion's consuming fire with deep distrust, recording their own histories in immutable rune upon adamantine plates. To the west lay the vast, ancient woodland known later as the Enchanted Forest or the Whispering Weald. Here, the influence of the shadow reigned supreme. The trees themselves achieved a slow, collective sentience, their roots intertwined with the planet's memory. Time within the Weald flowed differently, eddying and folding, resisting the linear progression favored by the Dominion. Within its depths lay places of power where the veil between memory, present, and potential futures grew thin, such as the Well of Echoes. It is likely the verdant wards arose during this age, guardians sworn by pacts older than the Dominion to protect the Weald's integrity from external manipulation, be it the consuming flame or a creeping shadow corruption. Part 3: The Sundering, Hubris and Cataclysm. The trajectory of the Emberfall Dominion, like that of a star destined for supernova, contained the seeds of its own destruction. Power, particularly power as fundamental as the flame, breeds hubris. Did the Flamebinders seek ultimate control, attempting to bind the entirety of the prime flame, exceeding the capacity of mortal souls? Did their quest for truths lead them to erase histories deemed inconvenient, provoking retaliation from powers rooted in shadow or from rival factions within their own ranks? Did the constant influx of Raw'll overload their societal structures, leading to schism and civil war fought with reality-bending forces? Or did the bound flame fragments, inherently dynamic and transformative, eventually consume their binders from within, turning philosopher kings into living pyres of unchecked ambition? The chronicles of the Hollow Age offer only fragmented, conflicting accounts. The outcome, however, is indisputable: the Sundering. A cataclysm of such magnitude that it scarred the very fabric of Ashvaleran. The Emberfall Dominion collapsed in continent-spanning magical warfare. Lands were turned to shimmering fields of emberglass, lethal deserts where twisted magic still radiates. The citadel of Ash was obliterated, leaving only smoldering ruins haunted by tormented revenants, soul echoes trapped in perpetual cycles of fiery death and ash-choked undeath, drawn to the cursed artifacts and forbidden tomes that survived the fall. The region became known as the Scorched Sovereignty, a testament to power wielded without wisdom. The shockwaves crippled other regions. The sundered crags were racked by immense earthquakes that fractured the mountains, swallowed dwarven cities whole, and sealed ancient tunnels, perhaps burying not only treasures but also dormant entities better left undisturbed. The recent unearthing of these tunnels heralds new dangers. The fundamental balance between shadow and flame was shattered. The sudden extinguishing of the Dominion's overwhelming flame allowed shadow to surge, but its influence was warped in the traumatized lands. Where flame had consumed history, shadow sometimes responded with corruption, memory festering into malice, stagnation breeding decay, giving rise to creatures born of nightmare and regret. The Whispering Weald, though heavily impacted, largely resisted wholesale corruption due to its inherent depth of memory and the ward's defense, yet its borders became frayed, porous to strange influences. The hollow curse of Briar's Hollow likely solidified in the collective psyche during this aftermath, a folk memory of the imbalance, the unseen wound left by the sundering that permeates the region known in hidden lore as Shadowmere, a place where the consequences of the ancient war never fully faded. The strange occurrences Elder Fenroot observes are likely symptoms of this deep, festering imbalance reaching a critical point. A poignant, often tragic, legacy of this era are the flamerit, individuals born generations later with faint, uncontrolled connections to the lost prime flame. Whether through bloodline, environmental contamination, or cosmic chance, fire smolders within their veins. Destined, cursed, hunted, and revered, They are living embodiments of the Dominion's dangerous legacy, capable of wielding sparks of the ancient power, often at terrible cost. Part 4 of the Hollow Age, Faithraloon, Decline and Preservation. The Sundering ushered in the current epoch, the Hollow Age. It is an age defined by absence, lost knowledge, faded magic, fractured realms, broken pacts. The grand certainty of the Dominion was replaced by superstition, fear, and the quiet struggle for survival amidst the echoes of a grander, more terrible past. Direct manipulation of shadow and flame became legend, the province of dangerous sorcerers or desperate cultists. Ashvaleran entered a long twilight, the balance between the fundamental principles remaining precarious, like a poorly healed wound susceptible to reinfection. It was during this age that the major factions crystallized their identities. The Emberbound, heirs to scattered Flamebinder traditions, driven by a fervent belief that only restoring the Dominion and reclaiming the Prime Flame can save Ashvaleran from slow decay or eventual domination by Shadow. They pursue relics and prophesize with single-minded, often ruthless, determination. The Verdant Wards, the ancient protectors of the Whispering Weald, focused on maintaining the integrity of the forest's deep memory and resisting the encroachment of both external forces and internal shadow corruption. They value balance above all, wary of the extremes represented by the Emberbound. The Thornwrought Foldy, a clandestine fellowship, possibly formed from scholars or dissidents who survived the Sundering. They believe certain prophecies point towards an even greater cataclysm tied to the cycle of shadow and flame. They operate in secret, preserving critical lore while attempting to manipulate events to prevent these prophecies from occurring, viewing figures like Elder Fenroot or Zealous Emberbound as potential triggers. The Chroniclers, a loose network of itinerant scholars, lore masters, and storytellers, perhaps Elder Fenroot was once among their number, or uses the title as cover, Eum Fenmu. Dedicated to combating the pervasive forgetting of the Hollow Age, they gather histories, myths, and songs, believing that memory is the key to understanding the present and navigating the future. The Hollow Age Archives, the semi-mythical repository of the Chronicler's work. Said to be a vast, shifting library existing partially outside normal time and space, perhaps anchored to powerful currents of shadow memory. It appears only to those whose lives are intertwined with pivotal historical moments, offering knowledge at a price yet unknown. For the common folk, life is hardscrabble, lived under the weight of forgotten grandeur and half-understood threats. Magic, Arethmin, is rare, often distrusted. History is reduced to cautionary tales and fragmented legends. Part 5, The Unraveling, Thavindralis, The Stirring and the Heroes. Now, the fragile equilibrium of the Hollow Age is failing. The symptoms Elder Fenroot observed are intensifying, the unnatural lights are beacons of leaking power, the drained cattle signify a life force siphoning, the earthquakes in the crags are unsealing ancient dangers, the hollow curse pulses with renewed virulence. The something ancient, something watching is making its move. Elder Fenroot stands at the nexus of this disturbance. Is she a corrupted chronicler attempting to seize control through forbidden shadow magic? A desperate survivor trying to preemptively harness incoming darkness? A vessel for a malevolent entity from beyond the veil or buried deep within Ashvaleran? Her use of soul-consuming magic, her manipulation of the Hollow's reality, her cryptic warnings, all point to a figure playing a dangerous game with forces she may not fully comprehend or control. She embodies the Hollow Age's desperation and the seductive peril of seeking power in forgotten places. The darkness she speaks of looms. Is it the ultimate ascendancy of corrupted shadow, threatening to drown the world in stagnant despair? Is it the return of a vengeful, uncontrolled flame? Or is it an external, entropic force drawn to Ashvaleran's weakened state, seeking to consume both shadow and flame? This represents the true potential destruction, the final unraveling of the cosmic balance. Into this fraught moment step the unlikely heroes. Roderick Ironbrand, a soldier adrift after his own smaller sundering, loss of brother, disbanding of unit. He seeks order and purpose, embodying the struggle between duty, flame's conviction, and the haunting weight of past failures, shadow's memory. His trial must force him to reconcile these. Silwen Shadowleaf Gelanorin, an elf tied intrinsically to the forest and its shadows, yet drawn to the flickering flame of city life and freedom. Betrayed in her past, she embodies mistrust and self-reliance, shadow's concealment, but must learn to forge bonds, flame's connection, and perhaps confront uncomfortable truths preserved in memory. Thorgar Runehammer, a cleric of the Forge God, embodying the blend of tangible action, hammer flame, and deep lore, rune shadow. He seeks to recover lost knowledge and balance his people's heritage, constantly wrestling with faith and the doubt born from loss and unanswered questions. Their quest, instigated by Elder's machinations, will force them to traverse the scarred landscapes of Ashvaleran, from the cursed borders of Shadowmere to the heights of the sundered crags, perhaps even touching the edges of the Whispering Weald or the desolate Scorched Sovereignty. They will encounter relics pulsating with the power of shadow or flame, remnants of the Age of Binding. They will likely cross paths with agents of the Emberbound, the Wards, or the secretive Foldy, each with their own agendas regarding the burgeoning crisis. Their journey is Ashvaleran's journey in miniature. They must navigate the treacherous interplay of shadow and flame within the world and within themselves. They must learn to wield memory without being consumed by it, and to act with will without burning away wisdom. The trials Elder sets are merely microcosms of this fundamental conflict. The fate of Ashvaleran, balanced perilously between a final descent into shadow or a consuming resurgence of flame, may rest upon their ability to understand and integrate these ancient, powerful, and eternally intertwined principles. Their tale, starting in the quiet desperation of the Hollow Age, is poised on the cusp of an ending written in shadow, or perhaps, finally, in a newly balanced flame. This is Ashvaleran, land of fading stars and rising embers, where every tale worth telling begins with a whisper and ends in flame.